One of the most dramatic comebacks ever for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. After a slide of more than 177 points, the index claws back to close off just 6 points. Good evening, I'm Paul Kangas.
And I'm Linda O'Brien. British Telecom and MCI are once again headed to the altar, but MCI is now a bargain bride. And the president of the Teamsters has to fight for that job again as federal officials toss out the results of Ron Kerry's election to office.
Nightly Business Report is brought to you by Digital, helping all kinds of businesses like the American Stock Exchange build network systems they can grow with. Digital, whatever it takes. Franklin Templeton, serving investors for over 50 years. Franklin Templeton, and now Mutual Series, investment products distributed by investment professionals. A.G. Edwards, providing financial advice and services for businesses including investment banking, cash management, and retirement plans. A.G. Edwards, trusted advice, exceptional service. And is produced in association with Bridge, the global financial information company, providing real-time and historical market data, analysis, and news.
It was another freaky Friday on Wall Street. When all was said and done, the Dow Jones Industrials finished the day off just a little over 6 points. But it took the long way round to get there. Scott Gervey reports.
The Dow pared early losses of as much as 177 points to close down about 6 on relatively modest volume. There was no single reason for the volatility. A Merrill Lynch downgrade of Intel on a price basis hurt the tech sector, and MCI has been swinging back and forth as details of its revised merger with British Telecom are analyzed.
Today's sell-off really began in Europe, and interestingly enough, most of the damage had already happened on a worldwide basis before New York even opened. So we opened way down, bounced back, came back down again in the middle of the day, and then bounced back on the close.
The volatility in stock index futures has been even more pronounced in recent days. The S&P contract opened limit down this morning.
This volatility shouldn't really concern anybody. In fact, it should be expected. The higher the market goes, I think the more volatile these day-to-day
off, but less than a point amid continuing concerns about the minutes showing the July Open Market Committee meeting recorded members leaning toward a tightening, as well as a dollar which is falling on expectations of a German interest rate hike and also the effects of the UPS strike settlement. If it leads to generally higher wages throughout the economy, it may lead to higher prices. Interest rates. The stock market would also have a problem with higher interest rates, but it also has a problem if the companies absorb the higher wage costs without raising prices. That would reduce earnings.
Either way, I think the participants in the stock market are starting to question current valuation levels. I don't think that we're in for a huge correction, but we have had fairly volatile markets.
Trading volume should decrease next week prior to the Labor Day holiday, and that by itself may increase volatility. Scott Gervey, Nightly Business Report, New York.
The sharp opening sell-off on Wall Street was not only an extension of yesterday's 127-point tumble in the Dow Industrial Average, but it was also partly the product of a weak dollar, lower bond prices, and steep downturns averaging 3% on the Tokyo, German, and London stock markets. At the outset of big board trading, the Dow Industrial Average fell as much as 128 points, while market breadth turned 4-1 negative. After trimming its deficit to 82 points at 11 a.m., the Dow then came under renewed downside pressures, reflecting a 30-point loss in the NASDAQ index, triggered by Merrill Lynch's downgrade of Intel stock to neutral. By 1:30 this afternoon, the industrial average posted a 158-point loss all the way down to the 7,736 level. A mild recovery in bonds prompted a nice comeback in stocks, which was also nurtured by bargain hunting, short covering, and futures-related buy programs, all of which helped to slash the closing loss in the Dow to only 6.04 points, putting it at 7887.91. The industrial average rose in the first 3 days of this week, fell in the last 2 sessions, but had a net overall gain of 193.25 points, or 2.5%. Trading volume today rather low compared to recent standards, about 457 million shares, well down from yesterday. 196 3/4 million up volume, 245.5 down volume. The Dow Transport Index gained just over 4.5 points. Utilities had a good gain of 1.94. The closing tick extremely bullish at plus 1187. We haven't seen that in a while. Standard & Poor's 500 down exactly 1.5, a loss of 2 1/3 in the S&P 100. Mid-cap 400 fell just over a half point, while the Commodity Research Bureau's Bridge Future Price Index was up 0.89. New York Stock Exchange Composite off 0.83. The value line dropping 1.14. The Russell 2000 Small Cap Index off nearly 1 1/4, while the Wilshire 5000 broadly based index was down 19 1/3 points. The bond market headed lower early today in reaction to the weak dollar abroad and continuing fears that Germany, as you heard, may boost interest rates this coming week. Hardly helping was an upturn in gold and oil futures and apprehension over what next week's reports on July new and existing home sales and durable goods orders will show. Although prices improved a little bit late in the session, corporate issues still ended down a half point. Tax rates were down an 1/8 point on average, and the Treasury market was moderately lower across the board. The 5-year notes dropping 3/30 seconds, 10-year notes dropping 6/30 seconds. The bellwether 30-year bond down 11/30 seconds, bringing the yield up to 6.65%. And the Lehman Brothers long Treasury bond index fell just over 10 1/2 points. I'll be back shortly to show you where the action was on Wall Street today. Linda?
British Telecom is dialing up a new number for MCI, and that number is about $4 billion lower than originally planned. The two companies have now formalized the details of a revised deal, and Stephanie Woods has the details.
It was the prospect of red ink at MCI that caused BT to lower its price. MCI said it will spend $800 million in its attempt to break into the local market, twice as much as originally planned. But the two companies said today they are still committed to their global hookup.
Conditions have changed, but the entire merger in terms of this company being able to go forward as a worldwide company in the future, as well as attack the local market, which we very much want to do, as you know, is exactly correct. It's correct for our shareholders, customers, and employees alike.
MCI shares plunged yesterday when the companies announced the deal was being renegotiated. The decline continued today. And some analysts question why the companies were surprised at the cost of competing in the local market.
This was a discretionary investment that MCI was facing, not a competitive embarrassment. And both sides should have been aware of what lay out there. I think changing the business plan might have been more appropriate than changing the terms of the deal.
The new deal will give MCI shareholders a smaller stake in the joint company, and many analysts believe BT will take a more conservative approach to the local market.
My bet is that that management structure will in fact be altered in some way down the road to show an increasing BT influence. I think if that happens, you will have you may squelch some of that MCI's scrappiness. I think given the tough fight that they've got ahead of them, that's probably going to be a drawback.
But it will be a while before BT and MCI will fight the competitive battle as one company. Shareholders of both companies must still approve the new deal. That process is expected to take until the end of the year. Stephanie Woods, Nightly Business Report, Washington.
The Teamsters Union is headed for another national leadership election. Just days after spearheading a successful strike against UPS, Union President Ron Carey's December election to the post was thrown out by a federal election overseer today. Carey narrowly defeated James P. Hoffa in an election plagued with charges of illegal campaign contributions. The Teamsters Union is no stranger to scandal. 3 of its previous international presidents were sent to prison. The new balloting could take 4 months to complete, and once again, Carey and Hoffa will be running.
Meanwhile, United Parcel Service and its pilots union will meet for contract talks sooner than expected. UPS announced today that the parties will begin meeting on Sunday. They had been scheduled to resume contract talks after Labor Day, but federal mediators want to capitalize on the good faith momentum created by the settlement of the Teamsters strike. UPS says pay raises remain the sticking point in negotiations with the pilots union. The pilots' current contract expires in December.
Still ahead on Nightly Business Report, our Friday Market Monitor guest. Andrew Addison, editor of the Addison Report, gives us his views of the day on Wall Street. It was a comeback like we haven't seen before. The Dow Jones Industrial Average almost wiping out a 177-point mid-afternoon loss, only a 6-point closing loss. However, the broader market, as you can see, did not recover anywhere near as well. Almost 2 stocks down for every 1 higher. 57 new yearly highs, 28 new lows. Compaq Computer topped the active list on 11.6 million shares, moving up 1 7/16. And then Kmart gained 3/4. That's a good percentage move. Morgan Stanley repeated a strong buy on Kmart and said it's comfortable with fourth quarter earnings estimates of 50 cents a share. GE down 1 1/16. Philip Morris dropped 7/16. Columbia HCA edging an 1/8 higher. IBM up 5/8. Micron Technology down 3/4. A rather mixed high-tech group today. AT&T moved up 5/16. Walmart a drop of 7/16, and Coca-Cola 10th in volume edged an 1/8 higher. Citicorp and a weak financial group down 2 1/8 on those higher interest rates. Clear Channel up 2 3/16 at the close of trading next, well, say a week from today. Clear Channel will be added to the Standard & Poor's 500 index, replacing Tandem Computer, which Compaq Computer, of course, is taking over. General Motors, the star of the day in the Dow index, best gainer. Donaldson Lufkin upgraded GM from market performer to buy and has an $81 a share target for the stock. Ralston Purina up 3 7/16. The company will sell its Protein Technologies international business to DuPont for $1.5 billion worth of DuPont stock. DuPont fell 5/16 today on that news. SmithKline Beckman down 2 7/16. Yesterday, of course, the stock was off 3 9/16 when the company's clinical laboratory unit was apparently going to be sued by 37 health insurers. Today, Smith Barney downgraded the stock from buy to neutral. And Vodafone dropping 1 13/16 after the Morgan Stanley brokerage downgraded it from outperform to neutral. Boyd Gaming up 1 3/16 on top of a gain of 1 3/8 yesterday when the Deutsche Morgan Grenfell brokerage upgraded the stock from hold to buy. Of course, Wednesday, Boyd had a doubling in second quarter earnings to 12 cents a share. Spartan Corporation up 1 3/8. This is a maker of automotive parts and electronics. Fourth quarter earnings today of 27 cents versus a loss of 2 cents a share last year. Sales up a very handsome 24%. Cypress Semiconductor gained just over 1 full point after Morgan Stanley rated it a buy. Lawyers Title gaining 1 1/4. The company will acquire Commonwealth Land Title Insurance and Transnation Title Insurance from Reliance Group Holdings for $478 million in cash and stock. Retirement Care Associates down 1 11/16. The company says it's going to restate its pre-tax income lower by $13.5 million for the first, second, and third quarters of fiscal year 97. The company's auditors resigned, and Sun Healthcare, which is going to merge this company into its operation, will lower the merger exchange ratio from 0.68 a share of Sun Health to 0.52. That's like going from $14.5 down to a value of 11 1/4 per share. Texas Instruments lost 6.5 after Merrill Lynch downgraded it from accumulate to neutral. NASDAQ trading a loss of 8.67 in the index today, but for the week it was up 36.66 points. Trading volume a little on the low side, 628.8 million shares. For every 17 stocks higher, 24 lower. Intel topped the active list down 2 13/16 on the close, but it traded as low as 91 11/16 earlier today after Merrill Lynch downgraded it from buy to neutral. Microsoft down 5/8. MCI, you heard the news there, down 9/16. Applied Materials fell 2 5/8. Dell Computer down 9/16. Cisco System dropped 11/16. Sun Micro off a full point. 3Com fell 9/16. McAfee Associates down 4 1/4 points. Symantec Corp says that McAfee admitted yesterday that some of its products contain misappropriated semantic code. Today, McAfee said it's suing Symantec for defamation of character, and on it goes. Oracle up 7/8. Inspire Insurance Solutions went public today. 5.5 million shares offered at 12, open at 16 1/8, a high 17 1/8. Smart Modular Technologies up 9 5/16. Third quarter earnings 57 cents, way up from 31 cents last year. Cowen Brokerage repeated a strong buy, and SystemSoft down 3 1/8. Second quarter earnings half of what they were last year, 3 cents versus 6. Oppenheimer downgraded the stock to market performer. The American Exchange Index down 2.73 today, but for the week it gained 8.12 points. Trading volume down about 1.5 million from yesterday's pace. About 2 stocks up for every 3 lower. Standard & Poor's depository receipts dropped 1/32, topping the active list. Clearview Cinema Group continues to rise. That stock went public at $8 a share on Tuesday. It's a northeastern movie theater chain. It's really been putting on a good show here. And finally, Cephas Capital down 3/4. This is the second day of trading on the American Exchange for the stock. Came over from the over-the-counter bulletin board where it had a big run-up, and now a little profit-taking apparently going on. That's our Wall Street wrap-up. Linda?
Quite a show on Wall Street today,
yes,
too.
Was.
Well, in a major alteration of corporate strategy, RJR Nabisco says it will put warning labels on cigarettes sold in third world countries. That changes the company's long-standing policy of attaching warnings only when required by law. Also, RJR's chairman Stephen Goldstone said in a deposition today that he believes smoking contributes to lung cancer. But the former smoker hedged his remarks saying, quote, "I'm not a scientist." Goldstone's statement follows yesterday's admission by the chairman of Philip Morris that 100,000 Americans might have died from smoking. RJR Nabisco stock closed the day up 1/8 at 35 7/16.
Monday, the financial markets worry about inflation, but what about deflation?
The Securities and Exchange Commission has approved NASDAQ's proposed listing qualification standards. Under the new requirements, all NASDAQ-listed issues must trade for at least $1. If a stock price falls below $1 for 30 days, it has 90 days to come back into compliance. During that time, the issue must close at or above $1 for 10 consecutive days. Otherwise, it will be subject to delisting.
USA Waste Services and United Waste Systems have reached an agreement with the Justice Department that satisfies antitrust concerns over their planned merger. Under the deal, United Waste would sell off its landfill operations in Pittsburgh to ensure competition in that market. USA Waste shares closed unchanged at 41.5. United Waste Systems was halted just before the close when the stock stood at 44 unchanged.
Hamburger lovers at 700 Burger King restaurants can't have it their way until tomorrow. The nation's second-largest fast food chain today recalled hamburgers supplied by Hudson Foods, the source of an E. coli outbreak that has sickened several people. Burger King said about 1,600 stores in 28 states were affected by the recall, but not all were able to receive fresh beef supplies from alternate sources. Shares of Burger King's parent, Grand Metropolitan, closed up 1/16 at 37 1/8.
My guest market monitor this week is Andrew L. Addison, the publisher and editor of the Addison Report, which is based in Franklin, Massachusetts. He's with us in our New York studios. Welcome back to Nightly Business Report, Andy.
Thank you, Paul. Pleasure to be back with you. Thanks for having me.
Such volatility we've never seen, I think, with, daily events. 5 days in a row, we saw 100-point swings in the Dow Industrial Average. Now, in the old markets, this type of volatility was usually a sign of a topping out process. How about this one?
Well, it may prove to be, but so far I think everything is fine. We've respected important support levels. I haven't gone through all the data from today's action, but it looks like we may have come close or have completed a successful test of Friday's lows. And I think that as long as the bond market doesn't send yields back above 6 7/8%, I think with just a little bit more consolidation here, I think this increase in volatility will set us up for a move back to the highs and probably to new highs before year-end.
Year-end, what kind of new highs in the Dow would you guess?
Well, if looking at the Dow, if we're able to hold above 7,400, which is my expectation, then I would expect that we could get up to anywhere from 8,500 to 8,800, perhaps within the next 3 to 5 months. And the quality of that rally will be very important. But so far, the correction has not been able to do too much damage in the leading stocks, nor take the averages below important support levels.
Do you see a change in leadership here, Andy?
I see a broadening, yes. What I see as noteworthy, Paul, is the fact that on the big down days, the small and mid-cap averages have really dug in their heels and gone down far less. And the real change is that those averages now are keeping pace on the up days, and that's something that wasn't happening for the last year. So I think that we're seeing a broadening into the small and mid-caps, but I don't think they'll be ready to actually take the ball and run with it until next year. But I think they're getting ready to assume a major leadership role starting sometime next year.
Speaking of last year, your last visit, September 27th of '96, the Dow stood at 58.73. You were correctly bullish on the market, and you gave us some great stocks, including Intel, which was 48.5 at the time, split adjusted, and up until today it was around 100, so that was better than a double. Do you still like Intel? Despite today's downgrading, incidentally, by Merrill Lynch.
Yes, I still like it, but what I would suggest investors do is put a stop on it somewhere in the 88, 89 area.
Dynatech, you gave us at 45. It's down about 5 points. What do we do with that?
Well, that was the clinker in the bunch, but there's been some insider buying, and the stock, I think, is getting ready to anticipate much better earnings next year, so I would hold that. A move through 45 would signal that it's starting a new up leg.
And Insight Enterprises, 37, now about 43, did well. Lehman Brothers, 24, now in the 45 range. Do we sell that or stay with it?
I would sell Lehman because I think much of the move was in anticipation of a takeover, but I would hold on to Insight. The earnings and revenues are climbing at a 35% quarterly clip.
And Global Marine is from 16 to 27. Stay with it?
I'd pull a Rip Van Winkle on Global Marine. I'd just forget about it for the next 3 to 5 years.
And Noble Affiliates at 40, it's up about 5 points.
That's when you might want to take some profits on. I don't think it's going to be ready until next year, until we see an improvement in natural gas prices.
All right, how about we have a minute left for some new ideas on the buy list here.
Okay, I'll go quickly. Candy's, one of my favorites. C-A-N-D, maker of women's shoes and accessories. It's a new management team. I think one of the most exciting stocks under $10. Also under 10, Feline's Basement, BSMT, 7.5. I like that a lot. Aviation Sales on the big board, AVS, a distributor of replacement parts for the commercial aircraft industry. UHS, Universal Hospital, the third largest hospital management chain. It's gone up in the face of Columbia's problems, and the insiders own 20%. And some larger cap names, Comcast, CMCSK, in which Microsoft took an 11% stake.
Okay.
Ohio Casualty, OCAS, which is an undervalued situation there, and a turnaround with some insider buying, EGG, which is on the big board. The stock has traded within a 15 to 25 range for the last 13 years. It's getting ready to break out.
No dearth of suggestions on the buy side. What is your present allocation, quickly, is stocks, bonds, and cash?
We would be 80% in, at least 80% in stocks and 20% in short-term bonds.
Very good, Andy. Thanks so much for being with us again.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
My guest market monitor, Andy Addison of the Addison Report.
And that's Nightly Business Report for Friday, August 22nd. And we'd like to remind you that this is the time of year your public television station seeks viewer support.
Support that makes programs like Nightly Business Report possible.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Linda O'Brien. Good night, Paul.
Good night, Linda. I'm Paul Kangas, wishing all of you the best of goodbyes.
Nightly Business Report is produced in association with Bridge, the global financial information company providing real-time and historical market data, analysis, and news. And is made possible by A.G. Edwards, helping businesses raise capital, structure executive compensation programs, and address complex financial challenges. A.G. Edwards, trusted advice, exceptional service. Franklin Templeton, serving investors for over 50 years. Franklin Templeton, and now Mutual Series, investment products distributed by investment professionals. Digital, helping all kinds of businesses, like the American Stock Exchange, protect their information technology investment. Digital, whatever it takes. And by the financial support of viewers like you. Introduce someone to the basics of stocks and mutual funds with the NVR Video Library. Paul Kangas hosts this award-winning set of 3 videotapes for beginning investors. To order by credit card, call 1-800-535-5864.